Think about the last wedding you attended. There was probably a beautiful white dress, a massive cake, expensive rings, and a carefully curated playlist of romantic songs. Today, we view marriage as the ultimate expression of love and emotional connection. We spend months planning ceremonies and sign legal documents binding our lives together. But imagine stripping all of that away. Take away the legal system, the religion, the concept of a honeymoon, and even the modern idea of romantic love itself. Now, imagine waking up 2 million years ago on the unforgiving African savanna. Every single day is a brutal, exhausting fight for survival. You are constantly searching for your next meal while desperately trying to avoid becoming a meal for a passing predator. In a harsh, incredibly dangerous world where your only concern is surviving until tomorrow, why on earth would you permanently tie your life to one specific person? In the animal kingdom, most males mate and immediately leave. So how did early humans make the monumental leap from solitary survival to lifelong partnership? The answer has absolutely nothing to do with romance, and everything to do with a biological crisis that nearly wiped our species off the map. To understand why our ancestors started pairing off, you have to look at the massive evolutionary changes happening to the human body. As our early ancestors descended from the trees and began walking upright on 2 legs, the structure of the female pelvis had to change. It became narrower to support bipedal walking. But at the exact same time, a contradictory evolutionary shift was happening. Early humans were discovering fire, cooking their food, and taking in massive amounts of calories, which caused our ancestors' brains to grow incredibly large. This created a deadly biological bottleneck. How do you pass a baby with a massive head through a much narrower birth canal? Nature found a drastic compromise. Human babies began to be born completely premature compared to almost every other mammal on Earth. Think about a baby horse. Within an hour of being born, a foal can stand up, walk, and even run away from danger. But a human infant is born entirely helpless. They cannot walk, they cannot find food, they cannot defend themselves, and they require years of intense, constant care just to survive. This profound vulnerability changed the entire course of human history. In the ancient world, a mother simply could not raise a helpless human infant entirely on her own. Foraging for roots, hunting for meat, and constantly moving the camp to follow seasonal weather patterns required massive amounts of physical energy. Holding a screaming, vulnerable baby made hunting impossible and turned the mother into a prime target for predators. She needed someone to bring her food while she nursed. She needed someone to guard the shelter while she slept. And the most logical candidate for this job was the father. In the harsh reality of the Paleolithic era, if the father mated and ran off, as most mammals do, his baby would almost certainly die. If the baby died, his genetic line died with it. The only way for an ancient male to ensure his genes survived into the next generation was to stick around, protect the mother, and provide resources for the child. This was the dawn of what scientists call pair bonding. It was not a romantic choice. It was a strict evolutionary imperative. The couples who stayed together raised children who lived long enough to reproduce. The individuals who tried to go it alone saw their family lines completely erased from existence. But nature had to find a way to make sure the male actually stayed. In most of the animal kingdom, females go into heat. There are obvious physical and behavioral signs that let males know exactly when a female is fertile. Males show up, compete for the female, mate, and leave. But female humans evolved a very unique trait known as concealed ovulation. There are no obvious external signs that a human female is fertile. Because ancient human males had no idea when a female could actually get pregnant, they had to stay close and mate continuously with the same partner to guarantee that they were the ones fathering the children. This biological trick essentially forced males to abandon the strategy of roaming around looking for multiple partners. Instead, it became much more biologically efficient to stay with one female, guard her from competing males, and invest all of his energy into her and her offspring. This continuous cohabitation laid the foundation for the deep psychological and emotional attachments that would eventually evolve into what we now call love. As these early couples stayed together, they accidentally discovered something incredibly powerful. 2 people working as a bonded unit were vastly more efficient than 2 individuals working separately. The ancient world was defined by scarcity. Winter freezes would wipe out edible plants, and herds of animals would migrate hundreds of miles away. Surviving meant maximizing efficiency, and the bonded pair created the first ever division of labor. While one partner trekked miles away from the camp to track a herd of deer, the other could stay behind to forage for nuts, gather firewood, and protect the children. If the hunter came back empty-handed, which happened frequently, the family would not starve because the gatherer had secured a steady supply of plant-based calories. This economic partnership became a highly successful microeconomy. They were no longer just sharing genetic material, they were sharing the incredibly heavy burden of daily survival. Over thousands of years, this pragmatic partnership became deeply ingrained in our species' survival toolkit. But the true power of early marriage extended far beyond just the couple itself. As early humans began forming larger tribes and communities, the competition for resources became fierce. If two neighboring tribes wanted to hunt in the same valley or drink from the same river, the result was often violent, deadly conflict. War in the ancient world was incredibly costly, but early humans realized that marriage could act as the ultimate peace treaty. When a young man from one tribe paired off with a young woman from a neighboring tribe, something revolutionary happened. Suddenly, those two rival groups were no longer enemies. They were family. The hunters from the first tribe were not going to slaughter the hunters from the second tribe, because their grandchildren were now shared. By marrying across tribal lines, early humans created massive networks of allies. If a terrible drought hit one territory, a tribe could travel to their new in-law's territory and ask for shelter and food. Marriage became humanity's first political contract and its first insurance policy. It wove small, isolated bands of humans into a massive, interconnected social fabric that allowed our species to conquer the entire globe. When we look at the historical record, long before written laws, organized religion, or governments ever existed, some form of marriage was already there. It is one of the few universal human behaviors, found in completely isolated indigenous tribes and massive modern metropolises alike. We have spent centuries dressing it up in beautiful poetry, elaborate ceremonies, and religious significance. We have turned it into an industry of expensive celebrations and stunning attire. But beneath all the modern glamour and the romantic vows lies a raw, ancient survival strategy. It is the story of a species that realized they were entirely too vulnerable to face a terrifying, unpredictable world alone. So the next time you watch a couple exchange rings and promise to stay together for the rest of their lives, you are not just witnessing a celebration of romance. You are witnessing the exact same evolutionary deal that kept our ancestors alive through ice ages, famines, and predators. You are watching the echo of a prehistoric choice to share the heavy burden of survival, proving that even at the very dawn of humanity, we were always stronger together.